Hello, everybody. You're welcome to the Tuition Centre and to our Leaving Cert 2024 Higher Level Maths Pre. My name is Owen O'Leary. I say well done to you all on completing paper 1 of the exam. You've sat down and done the exam over 2.5 hours, and that's going to be so beneficial to you in the month of June when you're doing the real thing. I'm sure many of you now have corrected the exam using the marking scheme, and you're looking at the videos here now to, firstly, I suppose, help you understand the places where you got stuck, the little mistakes you made. Also, maybe to help you and assist you correct the exam, to show you, was your work worth low partial credit? Was it worth mid partial credit, high partial credit? That's going to be so beneficial to you because you're going to learn the subtleties of the marking scheme. You're going to see more of your strengths and your weaknesses, and it's going to help you just fine tune for the exam in a few weeks' time. I'm going to go through these videos now with you. I'm going to explain again, how to do all the parts, the marks going for each question, and the little kind of mistakes that people are inclined to make, which cost the marks for the real thing. Okay, so after going through all these, as I said, you'll be very well prepared for the exam in a few weeks' time. Okay, let's have a look at paper 1. So you know the format of the paper by now. It's 10 questions, 6 short questions, and your best 5 from the 6 are going to count. Similarly, there are 4 long questions. It's your best 3 from the 4 are going to count. In total, there's 300 marks in paper 1, 150 for the short questions and 150 for the long questions. Okay, let's have a look here. So at question 1, a 30-mark question, as all the short questions are. So it is a question here with fractions and surds. It says express the square root of x all over x minus 1 plus the square root of x all over root x plus 1 as a single fraction in its simplest form. So we got surds above and below the line. Now, a lot of people are going to think about this as a cross multiplication because there's no common factors underneath the line. You're going to think about it multiplying in that way that you may have learned back in 2nd and 3rd year in school. That's fine. It's, myself, I prefer not to call it cross multiplication. I prefer to look at it like this. I say, okay, because there are no common factors underneath the line, like what I'm going to have to do to get a common denominator is I'm going to have to multiply the 2 denominators together. So the square root of x minus 1 times the square root of x plus 1 gets multiplied together to get this part over here on the right. Now, then I say to myself, okay, well, what did I do to the square root of x minus 1 to get my common denominator? I had to multiply by the square root of x plus 1. So I'm going to have to do the exact same to the top to keep the fraction equivalent. So root x gets multiplied by the square root of x plus 1. In a similar sort of way, what did I do to the square root of x plus 1 to get the common denominator? I had to multiply by the square root of x minus 1. So I'm going to have to do the same to the root x above the line to keep the fraction equivalent. So that's where my top line comes from here. I'm now going to multiply it all out, and you're going to see here that something nice happens for us, that all the surds are going to cancel out. So that leaves us with 2x all over x minus 1. And if you've done all that correctly, you get 10 marks. Now, some people might think to themselves, oh, I can go one step better. I could divide the x here into the x on top. But that doesn't work. And the reason is because if you did that, you're only dividing one part of the denominator by x, but you're dividing all of the numerator by x. And so it is not equivalent. So that is your final answer. Okay, let's go to part B. Solve the equation 2x minus 1 times the square root of 8x plus 1. Now, I'll just mark this off as a little tip for Leaving Cert 2024. I would not be at all surprised to see a question like this in your Leaving Cert exam. So in a few weeks' time now, if something like this pops up, you can say, oh, we've done just one just like it a few weeks ago with that Owen O'Leary fella. So let's have a look. What do we do? Well, we're going to square both sides, right? Because we got to get rid of that square root on the right-hand side. We have to get rid of him. So on the left-hand side, we're going to get 2x minus 1. On the right-hand side, we're going to get root 8x plus 1. But when we square it on the right-hand side, the square root will be gone. On the left-hand side, we'll have to square out the bracket. So I'm going to square out my bracket here. I'm going to get 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. And then I'm going to subtract my 8x and my minus 1 from both sides. So my left-hand side will look like this. I'm going to tidy it up, and I get to 4x squared minus 12x equals 0. So you could look at that and you say, okay, I can divide both sides here by 4, and that would be correct. So you're going to get x squared minus 3x equals 0. That'll be fine. But you might say, oh, I'll divide everything by x then. And you'd say to yourself, I'll be down as far as x minus 3 equals 0. But that's incorrect, because by dividing across by x, by dividing left and right by x, you've actually lost one of your roots, because you had a power of 2 here. But in the end, that should give you two solutions. But if you're down as far as the power of 1 here, you're only going to get one solution. So that would be a mistake and an error to do it. Instead, what I've done here is I've factored out the 4x. So I have 4x times x minus 3 equals 0. I say 4x equals 0, so therefore x equals 0, or x equals 3 when I solve it. So you're then going to verify your answers, as you know all the best students do. So you test 0, and you're going to get on the left-hand side minus 1, and on the right-hand side you're going to get the square root of plus 1. But the square root of plus 1 is equal to 1. Some people will say, but sure, is it not equal to plus or minus 1? But the answer is no. The square root of a real number is defined to be a positive number. So it's plus 1. So that is incorrect. We're going to test x equals 3, and it turns out we get 5 equals 5, which of course is correct. So that works, but this one doesn't. So you get x equals 3, and that's the only valid solution. Now, some of you might not have got full marks for that, because you might have done this part up here where you divided everything by x, and you get the solution x equals 3, and you think you're sorted. But in fact, you have made an error, and you're going to lose marks there. So again, sometimes that little bit where you come out of the exam and you say, oh yeah, I got the same answer as the other fellas, but you might not have got full marks. So it's those small things that can knock you down a grade. Okay, so we're up to 20 marks. So we got 10 to go, and everyone recognizes this one. Solve the simultaneous equation. So 2 equations, 2 unknowns, 1 linear, 1 nonlinear. In this case, many of you will have just done this. You'll have substituted in for x here. You'll have squared both sides. I think we have that in the marking scheme for you. So in this case here, I'm going to do it with a slightly harder version. I'm going to isolate y by subtracting 3 from both sides. I'm going to square both sides there. So I'm going to get y squared is equal to x squared minus 6y, x squared minus 6x plus 9. That's going to get substituted in up here. So because we have y squared here, I'm going to be subbing in x squared minus 6x plus 9. So I'm going to multiply through the bracket. I guarantee you, as you're watching this, some of you made an error here. Some of you are smiling and shaking your head because you know it's you. You know you did it. People often make a mistake when they're multiplying the negative through the entire bracket, that they forget. They typically get this one right, but you have to change the signs on all of the terms. So you're getting minus 3x squared plus 18x minus 27, and x separate to that, I'm subtracting 13 from both sides. So now we get down as far as here. We have a quadratic, minus 2x squared plus 18x minus 40 equals 0. I can divide everything by minus 2. And again, potential for a sign error there. Some people will have made 2 errors to do with signs in those couple of lines. I factorize and I solve. 2 answers for x. Again, you got to make sure you're not stopping there, because you have your 2 answers for x, but you got to go back up here to equation 1. You got to go back and get your answers for y. So when x is 4, you're going to get y is equal to 1. When x is 5, you're going to get y is equal to 2. Here are the solutions. And what I'd always say to people is this: make it easy for the examiner to give you full marks. Say the solutions are 4, 1 and 5, 2. You're matching your x's to your y's in both cases and giving your answer as points. Make it perfectly visible where the answers are. Okay, that's question 1 done. Let's move on to question 2.